Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Ba-dum, bum, bee-da-dum, bum, bum, da-dum, bum, 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 bum. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited about today's live chat. It's an amazing honor to be live and online and greeting you and welcoming you to the COACHMC studio. This is the place where we'll help you to shape unique behavior deliveries and where we'll help you to get recognized in the audition room. And today, it couldn't be a more important topic. And that's why I just screwed up the intro, because that's what's happening every time it gets crucial. That's what happens whenever Murphy's Law calls in. That's what happens every time we really need to make a very important statement and a point. So I'm glad it happened, because that means it is important to me. It should be also important to you. Welcome, everybody, to this new live chat. I see a few people here in the chat room already gathering up. I hope you guys brought in some very important, some great questions, because today's menu, ladies and gentlemen, served by Chef the Coach MC, here for you actors, performers, creators, entertainers, stand-up comedians, for you writers, artists, for all the people out there who need powerful, authentic, and truthful communication to really make it in their endeavors, whether that's for a pitch, a PowerPoint presentation, a strong monologue, or a great audition, like a great casting call in front of the casting director, or for a super important self-tape. You need great communication out there to negotiate your rent, your contract, your everyday life. Great communication enables us to live a better life, to live a life made of less stress, and where things kind of evolve more naturally and more spontaneously and in your favor, in your direction, because you express clearly what you got in your mind and on your heart and what you really want to achieve. So let me welcome everybody. Already we got a few people here in the chat room saying hello. I want to say hello to Daniela Gregor. Hello, nice to have you here. Annie Boo, of course, one of our all-time guests. Hello, Lorenzo, glad to see you again. Glad to see you guys again. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. It's a truly important matter, a very important topic. I want to share some of my most intimate, most important secrets, tools that I've developed over 30 years of being an actor, subconsciously and then consciously, let's say in the last kind of 10 years, because for 10 years now, I'm also a coach, an acting coach, a performance coach, a communication coach for everybody out there who needs to communicate in a very impactful way, in a very clear and concise and very truthful and genuine way. This is your channel, so subscribe right away if you're new to this program. And if you're here as a long guest like Annie Boo, smash the like button. If you know us already, make also sure to share this content to your creative community so we can grow bigger and further and greater all together, because this should be part of our culture: communicating, discussing, conversating, thinking about new solutions to our problems, to the everyday challenges. And there are a lot of challenges, and this is why this video is so important to me. I mean, this is basically also why we founded the COACHMC studio. This is all going back to our roots, because in the beginning, people were just looking for our services in terms of, hey, can I have a translation of this monologue in English? Can you help me out with this English self-tape? Can I stop by because I have an audition or a presentation to make for an English customer? I really need to nail the English language, the English rhythm, and what communication in English is all about. And sure, we helped out. In the beginning, it kind of evolved like that. And then, it happened to be way bigger than we ever could thought. And this is all based on communication, and this is so beautiful about this endeavor, about exchanging with each other. We got a few comments already in the chat room. Super excited, you guys already kind of heating up and firing up. Thanks again. Absolutely. Daniela Gregor said, I like Sturm der Liebe, Lorenzo, super film. Thank you so much. It's a great series. It's all about communicating there as well. I'm doing this for a long time now, and it's always a challenge to keep up with the quality and the great colleagues and the great setup that we have. So it's a beautiful quest. It's a beautiful everyday challenge. Rosita Macarons is also here. What a nice pleasure. Thank you so much for joining, Rosita. It's so great to see you. You're popping up every time we're live. So thanks for the support. Really enjoyed it. Make sure to share it to your community, to bring some other people over, especially when we're having those live chats. If they have any questions, whether that's regarding acting, performing, communicating, arts in itself, we always have great topics covered. Also, make sure to check out some of our videos that we're publishing and that we published. There's, I mean, for every little taste, for every little niche, for every little communicator, I think there is the right video there. If not, let us know what's missing. Write it in the comment section below. Hey, the Coach MC, could you cover this topic? There is something that interests me, and it's not covered by your videos, or you don't talk specifically about it. So can you go into further depth about a certain issue, a topic that interests me? Yeah, shoot me up your comments or send me an email through the coachmc.studio. Direct message me on Instagram if you want, and just tell me what you want to see, what you guys like to get covered, what is most interesting and trending to you guys, what you need most for your development, for your working environment, or for your acting presentation. Martina Lehmann, hey Martina, nice to have you in the program as well. So beautiful you guys are joining, flocking in. It's beautiful. Good evening to everybody. Hi Lorenzo, hi Martina, hi to everybody, hi to the creative community. It's such a pleasure to have you guys here. And if you're here at this time, I mean, it really means that this is kind of important to you, and it should be. I mean, it should be to so much more people out there, because I think we could avoid some damage in the world and some noise and some confusion if we would just communicate better. And the funny thing is, if you look at our responsible leaders and all the people involved in politics, they should be the first to address this, to be the greatest communicator of them all, right? Because they're leading a country, they are governing many million people. So it would be their responsibility and their first issue to address, like to communicate in a great and magnificent way whatever they have planned to do with the country and whatever is coming up, so we could understand better what's going on. But surprisingly enough, the ones that, you know, the one people who should communicate in the best way, sometimes they kind of lack the skill totally. And to me, this is like an amazing fact that when it comes down to communicating very important tasks and topic and absolutely topics and very important things that are relevant to so many people, involving all sorts of social fields, it should be the first concern of our leaders, of the responsible people, of politicians, and also people in the media outlets out there, to communicate clearly what's going on. But quite the opposite is the fact. That's at least my sensation. So let me know what you think about it. And probably this channel and this live chat today could be also of, you know, some great help for some people out there that are in very relevant positions when it comes down to government. So Anibu asks right away, the first thing I thought of when I read the topic is a quote from Václavik. Okay, I'm sorry for that. You cannot not communicate. That's so right. Communication happens on so many levels. And let's start right away with this beautiful hook that you gave me, because if you go to our website, it's the COACHMC.studio, you will see that we have kind of split up. I've created this method based on 3 fundamental columns, and it's called Do, Love, Act. And when you go through the method, or when you join me on the COACHMC studio, when we have one-to-one session, of course, in more depth, I can explain you what these 3 columns are made of and what is so important to these columns and why they are so fundamental to performing, acting, and communicating. And what we can learn straight away from that is that they are aligned, as well as we should be aligned with our communication, as well as we should be aligned also with whom we are addressing our communication to. Most of the times, communicators, actors, politicians, lawyers, people who kind of present something, they're just concerned about their speech most of the times. Not all of the times, but most of the times they are concerned about what they're saying and how they're saying it. But they are not concerned about who's actually listening, who's actually paying attention, because most of the times we as creators, as artists, as influencers, as makers, as doers, we love to pander our products to someone, right? We need to deliver our products. It's not just for ourselves. And the better we know our audience, the better we can address whatever we want to say. And the clearer, the more effective and the more concise our communication subsequently will be. And that leads to less effort and more impact, right? Because there is this old saying, right? Kill versus kiss, or kiss versus kill. Keep it long and lasting, or keep it short and simple, right? These 2 philosophies, sometimes they collide against each other, because there is this philosophy of knowledge that says, right, I'm going to kill my audience and my future prospect, by just by excruciating long monologues. I'm gonna just vomit all my knowledge. I'm gonna, praise my stature and everything that I did so far. So I want to impress them with what I did and all the things that I know, right? And that's why they're gonna buy my product and gonna be blown away by my performance, because I show my my magnitude, my greatness. And then there is this other philosophy that tells us, no, you should keep it short and simple, because if you have something important to say, keep it very clear and very concise and very compact, so the audience really understands what you're talking about. Because here on the kill side, you're doing it for yourself. There on the kiss side, you're not kissing for yourself, right? You're kissing the other one, right? So it's important how you kiss the other one, your partner, the one that you love, your family, right? It's a nice kiss, but you're kissing for them. So keep it short and simple right away, so we can establish this philosophy. And again, breaking it down to my method, which is do, love, act, which is aligned. Right, it is aligned because it kind of reflects the three center chakras at the same time. We have the throat, which is the blue chakra, which is do, right? You do things by saying them, right? You announce your mission, your goals, your affirmations, you declamate whatever you need to say as an actor, as a performer, as a pitcher, as a presenter. You have to say a lot of things. Then you have to love those things, passionately. And you should be enamored with your character, with your presentation, with your monologue, with your speech. You should be enamored with all the facets and the details, and the pure essence should shine through every time you speak, because that gives people a trustworthy feeling about you, because you deeply care. You're not just saying things out of a ratio, out of preconceivement, out of calculating, or out of an intention also manipulating people. No, you're saying it because you really feel that, and that kind of that drives people with you. That they immediately start to like somebody who is presenting something with passion and fire. So that's love, and that's the green chakra. That's nature. That's the birth of everything. That's also the underground world, because the god of the underworld for the old Egyptians, it was Osiris, the green god, right? The green knight, the green witch. It all comes from the underground, from deep inside. You have to drill very deep to really find out what your essence is about, what drives you, what you're passionate about, what your why actually is. And then we have the act aspect, where you need to move, right? You can't just say things passionately and then expect that things will work out quite naturally. No, you have to move things, right? You have to push them into a certain direction. You have to move accordingly. Your body language, whether you're holding a presentation, a monologue, a statement, a pitch, or you're just delivering in front of the camera or on the stage, your body needs to move accordingly. Your actions, they need to look crisp, sharp, and full of contrast and believable. So everything has to collaborate. These three center chakras, do, love, act, they need to meld together. They need to come together. But at the same time, they have their own principles, their own worlds, and their own rules. And if we respect those respective rules, excuse the play on words right here, if they all come together but they all keep the essence of their singularity, then you have a very powerful weapon. And I can teach you how to use that weapon. I can teach you how to adapt to this instrument, to this method that I've developed in over 10 years of work as a coach and over 30 years as an actor working worldwide. And it's so beautiful, because in the end, what I've noticed working in Australia, working in the United States, working also in North Africa, working in Europe, what I've noticed is it's always the same recipe. And I'm the co-owner of a restaurant in Stuttgart with my mom's for over 15 years now. I'm also like a hobby chef and amateur cook. My mom, cooks in a great way. We always have been involved with hospitality and cooking and recipes. And I'm coming also, my background in Sicily is also heavily related to agriculture and, nature and vine culture. So it always has been about flavors and recipes and menus in my life. I mean, there is something about the kitchen and the cuisine that runs deep through my veins, I would say, right? And in communication, it's very simple. It comes down to the right ingredients. Like in a great kitchen, in great communication, you need to nail your ingredients. You need to know exactly what your ingredients actually are and how to use them in the right manner, in the right measure. Because for a great dish of pasta, you can use all the ingredients in the same manner. It would just taste disgraceful. And the same thing is also true for communication. You can use all the ingredients that we have in communication, our speech, our passion, and our movements in the same way with the same value, because that will result in a crazy delivery, whether that's in front of the camera or during your board meeting for your entrepreneurial endeavors. Rosita Macarons. Oh, now I'm hungry. I'm hungry as well. I'm always hungry. You need to eat more, I guess. Right. Thank you so much, Rosita, for this beautiful comment. Yes, it's all about the right recipe. It's all about the right ingredients. And it's all about to know who you're pandering to, right? Who you're serving. What is your delivery here? Who is your audience? Who is sitting in your restaurant? And please excuse me if I continue with this analogy during this live chat. It's just because it is so heavily related to me, and I can see so many things happening in a restaurant business and a hospitality business that I can directly translate into the communication and also into the acting endeavor. And so that's why I'm kind of jumping back and forth. If you have any trouble with that, please let me know in the comment section, and please let me know so far if you catched up with everything that I'm trying to make clear here, because it is certainly one of the most important things that we can nail for ourselves and for our environment, because the better we communicate, the better our environment understands us, the better it is to live together, right? So what are these ingredients? How can I communicate more effectively, more genuinely, more powerful in a great way? How can I work on those skills? Do I need those skills all the time? Or is it just necessary in certain environments, in certain circumstances? Let's say I'm an actor and I'm auditioning. Is it really important that I'm great at communicating with people? Right? I mean, these are all fair and square questions. I'm trying to answer all of them during this live chat, and also to give you like some instruments that I've developed that we also will work on if you book me as a coach for certain, because it's the fundament of any great performance. It's the really the funding cornerstone on everything that needs to have an impact for the audience. So let's start right away. A lot of people, I think, have that kind of misconception of what great communication is, right? Because many people think that great communication is just, speaking from your heart and being totally passionate, right? And just rambling and ranting and vomiting and excruciating, knowledge all the time. Well, that's not true, of course, because if it's too much, then your brain won't listen anymore. The brains of the audiences that you will face in during your life, right? They need certain parameters to be respected in order to follow whatever you're trying to communicate thoroughly and completely, right? They need to absorb all of your information. And in order to do that, your information that you are transmitting, because you are the antenna here, it needs to reflect certain rules. It needs to kind of, respect certain boundaries. It needs to kind of be founded on certain elements and disciplines that are not, you can't really miss out on those, because they really belong to the structure of what great communication is all about. So if you miss out on those elements, if you are trying to wing it in some sort of way, you won't have an effective conversation with someone else. You won't build relationship, and it will be very hard to impact the audience in a lasting way, even if you have just a short amount of time at your disposal, at your disposition, when you don't have the right clues on how to proceed, right? So what are your strategies? What are your ingredients? And what do you need in order to really know what the audience wants from you before you know what you want from the text? Does that make sense? Please let me know. Anyboo says, a friend just told me yesterday, when you want to talk to somebody, you message them and they don't answer. Remember, no answer is still an answer. Absolutely. Right? There is this, like, coming back to the belief that communication should be just passionate or just rational or just, a listing of facts. Communication is you, first of all. You are the communicator. And each and every person on this planet is different. We are pandering our products, delivering our product to different palates all the time. Everybody has a slightly different taste. Everybody has a slightly different view of the world and the context of, on which things are happening. So you are the communicator, not some rule, not some status. There are some structures that you can respect that will make life easier to you. And certainly there are some like fundamental rules on how the brain works, what the brain likes and dislikes, and where the brain stops to listen and to pay attention. And yeah, certainly, if you get those things right, then you have a greater chance of getting hurt. Because the topic today, the live chat today, our mission generally for a lifetime, for our customers, for ourselves, for all of our clients and students will be to be heard. This is what Elia Kazan always said, I will be heard. And this is our mission, and it's your mission. And I think this is one of the most daring tasks nowadays. You need to have courage in order to implement all these tools and all these elements to really understand yourself and make yourself heard, because everybody wants attention. Everybody kind of craves for being heard. Everybody wants to advertise something. Everybody wants to market his own product, and everybody thinks his movie is the best movie, and the way he's delivering the monologue is the best way of delivering the monologue, and the way she's dancing is the best way you can possibly dance. So everybody needs attention. Everybody screams right now, and there is a lot of information and confusion in the air, and so it's it's hard to be heard because there's a lot of information. And when there is a lot of information, when there is a lot of noise, when there is a lot of confusion, we have to make sure that we know exactly what the instruments are to get through that noise, to cut through that confusion, to shed some light into the darkness, and to find the right orientation, to really find your prospect, your customer, your audience, and connect with them and build relationship and establish something beautiful and amazing, right? In order to do that, we need few things. We need to know ourselves, right? Like Neo in the Matrix. The Oracle said to him, you have to recognize yourself. You have to be aware of who you are, what your inconsistencies are, what your strengths are, what you're great at, and what you're not so great at. In order to be a great communicator, you have to be radically honest to yourself, because it's you who's communicating, not someone else. I can give you the greatest tools on planet Earth right away for free, just for a little subscription to my channel. Right? Just a little push of that like button. And maybe you jump also to my Instagram feed and you kind of follow me there too. It's the COACHMC. Right? We're not just doing that because we want that immediate gratification. We're doing that for ourselves. We're doing that because we want to improve. We want to become better. I'm not doing this only to give you great information. I could give you all the instruments you want, but unless you are really hooked to my message, unless you really believe what I'm saying and you believe in yourself and you're adapting this like thoroughly and completely, unless you analyze yourself in a radically honest way and you clean up your room, you clean up your inner mess, and you get clean with your with your demons, unless you do that, these instruments won't help you at all, that I'm delivering to you for free, as I just said right now, right? No, but jokes aside, I mean, it should be clear what I'm trying to say. There are the best instruments or the worst instruments. It's you. The way you process them and the way you implement them and the consistency on how you process with them and how you proceed further on your way with them and how you change them and manipulate them over time and you make them better and greater. That's how you get faster and further and further and further. So we have a few questions here or a few comments. Let's see. We got Jasmin Bodetsky. Thank you so much for joining. Liebe Grüße aus Berlin. Lorenzo, wie machst du das mit YouTube und Drehen? Well, like I'm doing right now, so wie ich das gerade mache. Tagsüber drehe ich, abends bin ich für YouTube da. Und zwischendurch mache ich mein Instagram-Zeug. Aber wenn du weitere Fragen hast zur Zeitoptimierung oder so, dann schick mir einfach eine Nachricht auf Instagram und vielleicht kann ich dir mit ein paar Tipps und Tricks helfen, um vielleicht bei dir selber so ein paar Dinge noch besser auf die Reihe zu bekommen, falls das so deine Absicht war. Ansonsten danke, dass du auf jeden Fall dabei bist. Rosita, what kind of books you suggest on this topic? There are some great books on this topic. What you can read is What's the Difference? From my man, where is the book? The founder of the Black Swan Group. His surname is Foss, and I don't quite remember his first name right now. But What's the Difference? That's the name of the book. It really cleans up all the ideas on what great communication is, how to negotiate in a very effective way, and what we try to find out when we're communicating and negotiating and talking to other people. Also, Pitch Anything from Oren Clough. That's a marvelous book. It's about how the brain works and what the brain does if you are, not a great communicator, and how you can get around those obstacles of the brains by communicating more effectively. And by learning how the brain works, automatically you reverse engineer your communication skills. So it's a great way to get a deeper insight on how brains work and how you reach the brain more effectively in a faster way. So both books are Chris Foss. I think its name is Chris. Yeah, founder of the Black Swan Group, negotiator for the FBI for many years, and his book "What's the Difference?" And Oren Clough, he's a professional sales pitcher. He works for big companies and big projects. Very interesting guy. Highly recommend his book, Pitch Anything. So let's get to the ingredients. So first ingredient is you. Second ingredient, I would say it's the antidote to the poison of our ego, right? Because our ego wants to be heard in an exaggerated way. Our ego doesn't know any boundaries, right? Our ego would love to go on and on and on. Our ego loves to hear itself speaking and speaking and speaking. So the antidote to the poison of the ego is clarity, right? Say things in a clear manner, coincised, clear, sharp, full of contrast. And by all means, clarity, means also that you eliminate everything that stands in the way between you and the clarity. What I'm saying is usually when we don't observe ourselves, when we're not concentrated or very tired or hanging around with people that we know for a long time, we kind of fall back when we talk, when we communicate and conversate, we fall back into certain mannerisms like this. It's called mental gap filler. We're filling up mental gaps, linguistical gaps, right? Between one sentence and the other, we make this strange sounding transition, right? We fill up the transition from one sentence to the other, from one reasoning to the other, with gap fillers, because we feel the urge that there needs to be some vocal tone, there needs to be something between one phrase and the other. We can't just let the one phrase settle in and stop there and then just start with the second phrase. No, we need to kind of make this transition come true, and that's called gap filler, right? And then we start doing things like well, I guess, no, you see, all these things, they don't mean anything, and they're just wasting our potential and draining energy from our system. So first, mind your gap fillers, eliminate them, exercise a clear speech where there is no, I guess, how can I say this? Well, I thought, all this stuff needs to be gone because it stands in the way between you and your audience. It kind of obfuscates the look, the view. It kind of fogs everything that you are saying, right? It's obfuscating the essence, and it takes away energy, and it takes longer to say things when you are using those linguistic gap fillers. So eliminate them, exercise on kind of erase them out of your system. No more just say what you want to say, be silent for a second, take that little beat, and kind of withstand the urge of saying something, or being vocal in some weird way, and then just start with the second sentence. You will come over as a way clearer, settler, and more secure human being, professional, that knows exactly what he's about to say, and people won't doubt what you are saying. They will just evaluate the facts. But if you start to use gap fillers all the time, you will come over also as slightly unbelievable character, because if you have a lot of gap fillers, probably you don't know clearly what you want to say. That's probably because you're not, maybe you're not telling completely the truth, or you're still confused about what you want to say. And it, people, your audience will start to have some trust issues with you. So the clearer you are, the more likable and trustworthy you are, and the better your presentation will be, and the less energy you will waste. So it's less effort and more impact. Once again, right? That's the magic of great communication. Be clear. Don't show me your ego. Don't show me your knowledge. Don't show me your IQ. Your IQ gets shown by the way on how you speak, not by the length of your sentence, but what you insert in terms of words, articulation, on how you emphasize the words and all that. And these are all things that we can exercise right away from our homes. We don't need any course or fancy workshop to do that. We can exercise our words. I always say that. I got a video on the topic. Please make sure to check it out after this live chat, because it's all about how to learn the words and say them, and the importance on knowing exactly what you're saying and having exercised that word millions of times, so you have always complete control of it. Because, hey, let's face it, we're not always in the best position to communicate. Sometimes it takes longer to get to the point where we communicate. Sometimes we are stressed out. Sometimes we're suffering a trauma. Sometimes we're coming from a tough patch. Sometimes it's crazy in our private life. So it won't always be like the perfect and ideal kind of starting point where you're when you're taking off. So always be prepared for the worst, and that means that you have to exercise in excess to what you usually exercise to have full control over your words and the clarity of your message. Okay, when you look at your coworkers and the characters of SDL, the show that I'm part of, that I have the privilege to play in, how do the different characters communicate? What would you say are the differences? Well, that's a very good point. The thing is that usually what happens when we are working with with a consistent amount of people over a longer period of time, we kind of assimilate their speech patterns and their mannerisms and their behavior. We talk like our friends talk, and so it's very important to always kind of make that point and make that difference, and kind of evaluate your speech patterns and your communication, especially when you're working a long time with your fellow colleagues, because usually you will always get to the same soup, right? You will always boil down everything to the same stew, and that has no taste. Everybody needs to preserve his originality, his own taste, his own ingredients. And that's why the show is also very important for you guys. So whenever in your work condition, whenever you're in work environment, whether that's for your entrepreneurial endeavors or for your acting endeavors, always watch out if you work for a long time with a lot of with a consistent group of people, because usually what we do is kind of we assemble ourselves. We want to stay in the group, we want to be socialized with everybody, and that's how we kind of adapt also speech patterns from someone else. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't steal from great colleagues. Quite the contrary. If you see a great colleague, if you hear a great colleague communicating in a very effective and genuine way, and you kind of figured out what his ingredients are, by all means steal them and implement them for yourself. Hast du auch einen deutschen Kanal? Noch nicht. Ich denke darüber nach, aber wie du siehst, ich habe sehr viel zu tun, und es ist wirklich schwierig, einen guten YouTube-Kanal aufrechtzuerhalten mit gutem Content und die Videos auch in einer gewissen Qualität zu schießen. Und dadurch, dass ich halt nicht nur Fans in vielen, vielen Ländern hier in Europa habe, sondern auch Kunden in vielen, vielen Ländern der Welt, ist für mich Englisch einfach das ist einfach die logischste und unaufwendigste Lösung, um mit denen allen zu kommunizieren. Wenn ich jetzt anfangen würde, auch einen deutschen Kanal aufzumachen, müsste ich eigentlich respekthalber meinem Heimatland gegenüber auch einen italienischen Kanal aufmachen, und du siehst, wo die ganze Reise hingeht. Das wäre es wäre einfach zu viel Arbeit. Das könnte ich momentan einfach nicht stemmen und das ist es auch, glaube ich, gar nicht nötig, weil das Englische, das hat einfach mittlerweile so eine Art Universalsprachenrolle eingenommen und wer heutzutage kein Englisch kann, der sollte es anfangen zu lernen. Okay. Wäre aber auch Deutsch nicht viel mehr Abonnenten? Ja, aber mir geht es nicht um Quantität, sondern um Qualität. Und außerdem, wie gesagt, ich arbeite sehr viel mit dem Ausland, also sehr viel mit englischsprachigen Kunden. So viele deutschsprachige Kunden sind da gar nicht dabei. Man könnte jetzt natürlich das Argument führen, ja, weil du nicht Deutsch sprichst, aber das glaube ich nicht. Es ist einfach so, die Art von Content, die ich produziere, die ist, glaube ich, eher für den internationalen Markt auch ein Stückchen weit gemacht und nimmt auch sehr viele Anlehnungen und Beispiele aus den Vereinigten Staaten, wo ich mich auch oft aufhalte. Und ja, es ist einfach momentan die logischste Lösung für mich. Vielleicht kommt aber irgendwann auch ein deutschsprachiger Kanal dazu. Ich kann es noch nicht sagen. Es kommt darauf an, wie weit das auch alles wächst. So we have established two things already. Coming back to the subject, we need to be ourselves, right? And in order to kind of have that awareness, we need to exercise in front of that beautiful thing called mirror, what we are, how we sound. We need to record ourselves and we need to be fully aware of the fact that it's completely unimportant what other people think of us, right? We shouldn't judge their opinions. We should just make our performance better and should improve. That's the only mission, and improving ourselves means also improving our communication, right? So then we need clarity. And clarity is based on what we're saying, right? It's the do compound. It's the throat that needs to be open and needs to be clear. It needs to be oxygen and needs to have a constant movement forward and leaning into difficulties and leaning into the complexities of the speech by practicing everything and having everything eliminated that stands in between you and an effective communication with your audience. Second of all, make it short, right? Keep it short and simple. KISS. Keep it short and simple because brevity is an important factor. Nowadays, everything needs to be fast. Everybody needs it yesterday. Markets are changing in the matters of hours, so it needs to be short. Brevity is really the key to great communication because if you can't explain it in a couple of sentences, let's say max 3 sentences, then probably you haven't understood it at all, right? If you can really explain it on a little napkin and write it down in a few short sentences, then it's probably up to you to get your head around what you're trying to say, because then it's too complicated. You should boil down everything, like just do it, right? That's so, obey your thirst. You can't get any further than that. That's beautiful. 3 words, and they explain everything. Always better performances, right? Try to boil it down to be short, not just because it then gets too complicated. But again, coming back to the alignment with your audience, you have to understand 2 things. Let's say you are an actor working for a great stage play, and let's say it's a classical drama like Shakespeare, and sometimes like a Shakespeare drama play can take like 3 hours, right? And if you're coming in the third act and you have this wonderful and lavish and long monologue, right? And you kind of exaggerate it and you bring it to, you're trying to put some mannerisms in and you make it too long. You have to kind of understand that the audience is sitting there for 2 hours already, and now you coming up and you're trying to convince them of your grandeur, right, of your greatness as an actor, instead of delivering the message. And they will go sideways. They will kind of phase out on you, because if it takes too long, sometimes when the audience is tired, or when there were some speakers before you, or you're just at the end of a pitch meeting, right? Let's say you're sitting in a pitch meeting for a very important project and it's a couple of $1 million, and you are the 5th pitcher that afternoon, and the board has listened to, I don't know, like 20 pitches already, and you're coming in and then you are bragging about your company, about your knowledge, about your stats, and you're annoying them with numbers and figures and complicated spreadsheets and all that. They won't listen to you, even if you got the best concept, because you weren't aligned with the audience. You weren't understanding where they came from. You were just concerned about your grandeur, your splendor. It was narcissism. It wasn't really participating. It wasn't really selling anything, right? It was just about you and not about what probably the audience wants to hear and feel in that moment. So whether you are a pitcher, whether it's in front of the board meeting or it's in front of the audience, right? Keep that in mind. There is a context on where and when you're delivering your speech, and that also should reflect the length of your delivery. So we have another question. To get back to what I said earlier, Annie Boo says, I have a question. Sure. When I message someone and they don't answer at all, do you think that they try to communicate that they want to talk? Yes. It's pretty obvious. Or are there other possible meanings? Well, I mean, just get whatever your instinct is telling you first. Probably don't want to communicate with you right now. It's just not possible. But that doesn't mean that they don't like you. Maybe it's just what you just mentioned afterwards, like probably has also another meaning. They're confused, or they're just busy, or they're driving a car, they're someone else, or somewhere else, or they're in a meeting or working, or they're just having an intimate moment, whatever. There are many possible explanations. Again, you shouldn't be too concerned about what other people think of you. If they don't answer, that's their fault. That means that there is no conversation with you. That's too bad, because you got so much to offer. So go to someone who will actually answer, and make sure that whatever you are saying respects also some sort of guidelines like we're discussing tonight, because maybe sometimes your communication is off and not just your listener, right? Just align with the audience, and then you will kind of discover many things about what you could possibly improve about your speech patterns. Hi, right? Demirok, hi. Nice to have you on board. So when there is not much time, or the audience seems tired or overwhelmed, or when whatever you are trying to say is very difficult and complex, try to be short. Try to be as compact as possible. Don't brag. Just be right to the point. Also, know the context. The context is super important. Like, to understand that sometimes a message isn't just enough. That means, like, sometimes an actor, he delivers something, and what he said, let's say you got something from Eugene O'Neill or Tennessee Williams, like very poetic language, or here in Germany you could say Schiller, right? So you have that very poetic language, so we lean into that language because that language is beautiful. But sometimes the audience doesn't want to hear the language, but just the message. So we need to kind of subtract a little bit, because it's already so powerful and so overwhelming. We don't need to emphasize that even more, because then it becomes too much, right? Less is more. So you kind of subtract there. You kind of reduce the emphasis and the impact when you have very poetic, very heavy, very descriptive language, right? Very, word heavy language. But when you have language that seems very scarce and very simplistic, when you have language that is kind of very short and very Spartanic almost, right? When the language is not so bloomy and not so flowery and not so dependent on great adjectives and great descriptions, then you need to fill up a little bit more, so the context becomes even clearer. So whether or not the audience wants more or less depends on how you're judging what they got already and what you got in front of you. So the context is very, very, very important when it comes down to communication. What is the context here? To whom are you speaking to? What is the language all about? What is the content all about? Is it heavy content? Is it light content? So when it's light content, I need to do some more work, substantial work on my side when it comes down to emotion and emphasizing something. When it's hard language and very hard and complex to understand, well, then you kind of subtract and leave room for the language to kind of impact without emphasizing it too much, because then it becomes like a duplication of the language with your actions and not actually in addition to anything that really helps. It becomes ineffectively. If you're not using the context in the right manner, your communication lacks effectiveness, and that will result for sure in your audience, again, phasing out and not finding you interesting as a deliverer. Just for that instant, maybe, but that already could throw your audience out, right? It could throw your audience off of your picture, out of your scene, And that's too bad, because if you're even missing on a couple of seconds, that could influence the final judgment about your delivery a lot, especially when it comes down to an audition, but also to a pitch meeting or sales meeting, right? Even a couple of words placed in the wrong manner and the wrong side, or just to emphasize too much, or just rhythming and not arranged nicely, that could throw your audience off, and you don't want that to happen. So have the right context and know if you need to give them more substantial information. Let's say you have Jeanne d'Arc, right, from Friedrich Schiller, and you got an actress that has never read Jeanne d'Arc and doesn't know what Jeanne d'Arc is or where she's from, and reading this monologue of, of her saying goodbye to her, lovely hills and the beautiful mountains, and knowing that she's about to die in the future battle and all that, and or at least he assumed so that of course gives a completely different drive to the monologue and to the delivery. So if you know more about her background, where she grew up, why she did the things she did, and what kind of things happened to her, and all the marvelous accounts around her, then you also know more about that person. The easier it is to communicate her lines, the more effective they will reach your audience. So the context is also not only your audience, but also yourself. Do you know enough about what you're saying? Are you really a pro? Are you settled in with the topic? Do you know exactly what the issue is about? No? Then you should get us some more information, because then you can substantially kind of emphasize, subtract, or add something to the speech, to the presentation, that will help to impact the audience. Right? Does that make sense? Let me know in the comment section below. Darf ich Fragen zum Stelle stellen, oder ist das hier unpassend? Yes, it's actually, don't worry, it's all good. Yasmin Bodetsky, it's today's topic is about communication. Today's topic is for the creative community here at the COACHMC studio. It's not about television per se, or my role, or any kind of more detailed questions about what I'm playing when I'm standing in front of the camera. Today is all about a certain topic. So yes, I guess that would throw off the audience a bit too much, and it's really not related to what we're saying today. So whenever you got a question, just DM me on Instagram. It's no problem. I will answer you there. Or maybe I addressed this already. If you just scroll through my Instagram feed, you maybe find some informations there that are probably addressing already what you got on your mind. So make sure to check it out, or just send me a DM, and then we can clarify everything that you got on your mind. So when we need more familiarity with the topic, we need to kind of cater more context to the audience and also to ourselves. That's super, super important. Otherwise, our communication will fail, because it's when you don't have substantial information about the background of the characters, of the job, of the endeavor, of the service, of the product you're trying to offer, then it's already thin, right? The ice on which you're walking is thin. Let's imagine a couple of questions will come up, and they are unexpected, and you will break through, because the thickness of the ice you're walking on is just too thin. You laid it out too thin. You try to kind of play it that way, it won't work. You have to have solid fundamentals about what you're talking. But I will address that in a couple of minutes, and make sure that you fully understand what that also means and how to implement that. I would want to just go through the ingredients charts for our menu, and then we can prepare a magnificent dish that will taste delightful to all of our audiences. So what else do we need? Can you come up with something? We have ourselves. We have the clarity of our message. We eliminated everything that stands in between us and our expression. We have the brevity. Everything needs to be, coincised, short, compact, in order to not annoy somebody, and in order to not make it too complicated, because our ego, again, has the tendency to make it lengthy and lasting, and to kind of brag with the intellect. No, we need to kind of keep it focused and clear. We got a mission in mind. We're like a sniper. It's not about showing off our skills. It's about killing the enemy, right? And that you need to do in a very silent and very effective and quick manner. And the same thing is here true as well. Sometimes we don't have much time. Sometimes the audience is annoyed already. Sometimes it's a very, very complicated and complex topic we're talking about. So brevity is always key there to kind of get through the noise, right? Then we need the right context. We need to need more to know more about what we're talking about. Sometimes the audience needs more information, so they kind of get familiarized with the background of the character, the background of the idea, why you developed this service or this product, or the background of the status quo that is happening right now when you have your presentation or when you're holding your pitch. So, is there anything else? What is so important about communication besides all these very important ingredients? About communication, the one thing that is truly important is that you are fully aware of the fact that it doesn't matter what other people think of you. And most importantly, it's not about convincing the audience that you are right. It's just showing, it's just telling and showing and underlining this with the right gestures, with the right body behavior, because it's all about behavior, whether that's on stage in front of the camera or when it's related to more like business topics. It's all about the body behavior. It's all about how we kind of, bring these things over to the audience, how we deliver them. It's it, in a way, you can say the first 2 points, like brevity and clarity, it's all about the throat, it's all about the speech, it's all about having the right ideas and eliminating everything that stands between you and your ideas. And then and then you have the context, right? The context is about knowing exactly. That's the passion, that's the love, knowing exactly what you're saying, right? And also exactly knowing what your audience is aligned to, and if you align with the audience, and that is out of generosity of giving them the best product and not of ego of showing them how great you are. That's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different leverage that you're trying to operate here, because one thing goes into the direction of manipulating people and letting them believe that you are great, and the other thing is just showing how great you are and not manipulating them at all, not asking anything in return except that little favor at the end. But that's normal. That's what everybody asks. But not being nice because you want something in return, showing what you got because you want to show your character, and no holds barred because the fearless man is the most attractive one, and the fearless woman by far is the most gorgeous one, because with her you can feel you can conquer the world. You don't want a beautiful woman just sits there and is lazy and spoiled. You want somebody who you can conquer the world with. Your partner needs to be your greatest companion, and that means that you are fearless as well as your companion. You are aligned with the same perspective, with the same goals. There's one shared mission here, and that's the value preposition, the value of what you're saying, because you're believing in it. So I guess the first two, instruments are about the do aspect. The second one and the third one and the fourth one is about the love aspect, about the passionate aspect and the generosity that you develop because you want to communicate in a great and effective way, and not because you want to show off. And that's value. You're proposing real value here. That's an asset. And how you do that, by being transparent and truthful. And here comes the third aspect, the acting aspect, right? You move intentionally, accordingly, flawlessly, generously, right? Believable. Believable means that you are trustworthy, that what you're saying is actually right, that you're not stating something because you want to scam or trick people. Whatever it is that you're trying to sell, you need to sell it genuinely. That's what great communication is about. And you need to offer a value here. When the noise is loud, you need to be louder. You need to have impact. How can you do that? By offering something that nobody else offers. You are now offering something that is completely at the edge of the box and not playing the same game everybody else is playing, because that's just boring and mediocre. You don't want to be mediocre. You want to offer some value. Why should people listen to you? They should listen to you because you propose something that is unheard of, because you're generous and you're proposing a value. Once your audience realizes that the value that they are getting out of your delivery is bigger than the entrance ticket, they will, praise you for the rest of your life. They will buy your services, your products. They will purchase everything you have to offer in the future as well, because they trust you, because the value is far greater than the expense that they have to make. Does that make sense to you guys? Please let me know. So it's truly important, because value is something that is so undervalued. People take it for granted. Yeah, I got a great product here. Yeah, that's a great speech. It's a great monologue. The setup works perfectly. I can trust everybody, so I just can do it. No, what value has it to you? What is potentially in for you when you're selling this? How can this product change you? How can this monologue change you? How can you transform in order to deliver the most exciting information in such an emotional and pure way that people will be blown away by your communication, by your delivery, because it has value to you, because it means something deeply important to you right now in that moment. And that's not hypocrisy. That's truthfulness, because you are trying to engage at your fullest every time you get called to action. And that's the professionalism everybody else expects from you. So whether it's an athlete, an artist, somebody a martial artist, like a sports figure, somebody who works constantly, and like a singer, a performer, we all share these 4 elements of success for great communication. We all have that in common. So first of all, align yourself with the audience. We've discovered the ingredients. Sometimes you need less, or sometimes you need more of those ingredients. Of course, like I said in the beginning, it's not always the same amount of all the ingredients at the same time, because that will be, that will just result in a very overwhelming and messy delivery. Sometimes you need to deliver more value. Sometimes you need your information to have more impact, to be heard by more people. And it's not about the clarity, it's about the impact that is more important. Sometimes the brevity is more important. Sometimes it is important to have the right context, right? Sometimes we need to scale up and down with these different ingredients in order to cook the perfect meal, right? But they're all coming down, all these ingredients are coming down to 4 aspects on how you want to kind of set up the table for your customers, for your clients, for your audience, for your casting director. You set up the table by assessing the situation first, by assessing exactly what's going on and how you align with this what's going on. What's going on, right? How do you align with that? Have you clear and full disclosure about what is about to happen, whom you're pandering to, what your audience is, what kind of solutions they need, what they are looking for, what kind of what kind of emotions they expect to come out of your system, and how they expect to get impacted by you. And then, of course, surprise them. I'm not saying that you should always act correspondingly, but first assess clearly. And then you can deviate, then you can surprise, then you can, uplift the wheel, right? Unveil the masquerade, right? And then you can kind of, also do all sorts of crazy stunts. But first, you have to know exactly what's going on. Assess the situation. Like, have you a very clear picture of what is going on? And once you know that, it is easier for you to formulate the message. If you know exactly what's going on, then probably you have a pretty good idea of what you're about to say. And even if you don't know exactly what you're about to say, since you know the situation and the context already so good, you know precisely how to enter that sentence, enter that phrase, enter that monologue, how to get into the mood of, creating that substantial passion, that fire bundle that will kind of, light the way through the labyrinth, through the maze, towards the center, towards the core of your audience. You need to have a clear message. The message needs to be addressed in order to configure perfectly, to fit perfectly in what your assessment has been. And that means that you kind of write down. That means you journal down what stands in between you and your message. What's unclear so far about the text? If you're an actor, what's unclear to me so far about this monologue? What should be clear afterwards for the audience? What should I try to convey in this message? What was the intention of the author? Have I all the instruments mapped out? necessary to kind of do that in a magnificent way? Have I exercised everything in a unique manner so I can perform then later in a remarkable way too? Yes, because most of the times we are lazy about our own handling. Maybe we've assessed correctly, but then when it comes down to practice, we get a bit lazy because we think we've broken down everything through our ratio, and now it will be just a piece of cake of doing that. But that's actually just the first step. The second step will exactly be that very crucial and fundamental step of boiling it down into an understandable message. So how do I sell my message as an actor here? And when I get asked, besides the audition, when I get asked by the casting director, by the director, the producer in the room, who's maybe like a very relevant player in the game, right? And then he asked me, he's like, "Hey, I like your audition. Tell me a little bit more about yourself. What will you do? Freeze? No, you have to say something, right? And please don't start with right. So I'm right, because you've assessed already. If that crucial question comes, if you know exactly that they want to know something about you, if it's like a production meeting or a chemistry reading or something like that, then you should know exactly what you like to address, what you should like to tell about yourself, what your passions are, and what they should get about you, how your character actually reacts in certain situations, what your passions are, what ignites you. And you should have like a clear, concise idea about what you like to say when they ask you, "Hey, tell me about yourself. What is it about you? What is so special about you? What are you doing besides acting?" All that. So in order to do that flawlessly, establish a document with yourself. Don't journal this only down to have it clear. Write it down. Make a PDF, print it out on paper, on a sheet of paper, and kind of review that with yourself. Is this a clear message? Is this document? Can I ship this out? Can this document, my self presentation, be emailed to someone else? And then would that other someone else, my future employer, would that person understand completely what I'm about? Yes. Because once you got it on a document, then you got a notification that you send to yourself, like, "I've done this," right? "Hello, you've done this. It's you. Now you're on a sheet of paper. Is this you? Is this truthful? Is this genuine? Yes or no?" Because how well you deliver depends heavily on how you've assessed those previous three fields of action. And now coming to the action, because that's probably the most crucial part, because believe it or not, there is a study that has been long done for, I think, 25 years, where they asked, I think I told you about this in one of my previous live sessions, where people asked, like, universities asked people that were attending seminars and big speeches and events at the university, or also like any like big board meeting, stock market kind of gatherings, what they kind of remembered after the presentation, after the convention, after the reunion. And what they remembered usually had nothing to do with the words that were spoken, but more with the behavior and the sound of the speech. So again, coming back to the do love act principle, to this inner alignment that you should have in order to construct a great communicational architecture and a great communicational behavior. How does your voice sound like? How do you sound? Are you believable? Do you have clarity about your words? Have you eliminated all the stutterings? Are you precisely saying what you want to say in a very emphatic and beautiful and relaxed way? Is everything mapped out clearly? Because if I got that and I got my passion, I got my fire working for me, now the action comes into play, and my behavior will tell way more than my words can actually express. How my body moves and behaves and acts while I'm saying what I'm saying, that will impact my audience subliminally way more than what I can say consciously. They will listen to the words. Maybe they're fascinated by the rhythm and they understand the message. But whether or not I'm trustworthy depends on the sound of my voice and also how my body behaves. That's actually 55% of the ratio of trustworthiness people have towards you and the understanding of what you just try to convey. When your body, your actions underline perfectly what you said previously, and if all is assessed clearly for you, then the actions are effectively. So whether that's on stage or during your presentation or during the board meeting or in front of the camera, your actions should always be coherent and maybe tell a slightly different story, and maybe also give some hints about the true nature of your character to the audience to entertain them, but also underline the importance and the value that you like to propose here. So your body needs to be in tune as well. You need a trained body in order to communicate well. That doesn't mean that you need to be an athlete, but your body needs to be in tune with you. If, let's say, you are a couch potato, you are a very lazy person with a big intellect, but you don't like to move and you're very lazy, you're not doing any sports, and after work you just sit on your couch for hours and hours and you do the same thing on the weekends. So condition, stamina, maybe also your look, your skin, everything kind of, is affected by your behavior in your private life. So the more you kind of exercise your body and the more in tune you are with your body. Again, I'm not saying that you have to work out every day like crazy and get ripped and all jacked, but just have a natural and very healthy relationship with your body will certainly help you to convey your messages in a more effective and clearer way. And you will come across as a way more trustworthy person, because people who are in tune with their bodies and kind of move flawlessly and where everything looks nice and makes sense to the audience, they will trust this person. I'm again not emphasizing or implicating here that you need to do a lot of sports in order to have success, but it surely helps to be in tune with this apparatus here, because let's face it, this is your biggest organ. Your skin is your biggest organ, and your body is actually something very important, something that everybody perceives. We look at the bodies. That's something that we do, and our body language tells a lot about ourselves, about if we're lying or not, about if our communication is on point or not. And sometimes we do strange things with our bodies, like mannerisms and little automatisms and little things we're not even aware of, like scratching our beard or touching our nose, something like that. And that sometimes happens because we're nervous, sometimes happens because we're not in tune with our bodies, sometimes because we're tired, sometimes because we got a toxic lifestyle, whatever. So all these things can be very telling. And in order to have that, to be a great communicator, we're not just only working on our voice and our passion, our intention, we work on our body as well, like an athlete would do. It's a muscle. At the end of the day, like, great communication is a skill that you can learn through the activation of different muscles in your body. Your speech muscle, your passionate muscle, your body, your actual literal muscles that you have, right? The more you activate them, the more you train them, the more discipline you get into your system, the better your body will receive that, the more transparent your body becomes, because here it comes. And that's truly crazy. All these gap fillers, all these inconsistencies and insecurities and all these mannerisms, they come from our body, because our body craves for neuroepinephrines, for serotonin, for all these different compounds in our brain, because our body loves to have control. And when we're doing something that we are afraid of, that we're not completely sure of, or that we're just doing for the first time, our body is very insecure. So it calls out for emergency, mayday, mayday, right? And our brain immediately emits neurotransmitters, those chemicals sometimes that our body loves to crave, like an addiction. And so our body sometimes makes us insecure, and our brain follows then, and then it's a complete catastrophe, and our communication just goes overboard. So we need to control our body. We need to know how we feel, and we need to know how we can put ourselves in a good and relaxed mood, how we can transition and shift our attention outward and be totally okay with that. And that is only possible if we have a good body feeling, a good relationship with our body, with our posture, with everything that we do, because that's our secondary and third expression that we have. And that's super, super important. Again, that's what people remember most of you, how you behaved and how you sounded, before they remember what you actually said. And that is what great communication is all about. In the end, it's just a practice. It's just a practice of being
genuine, truthful, of practicing your skills over and over and assessing every time again and again if you have read all the signs clearly. And then also reminding yourself in private life, you can exercise this not only in your private four walls, but also if you're going out, whenever you're negotiating, whenever you're asking for something like administrative procedures and bureaucratic procedures, right? Whenever we're going to some institution, the clearer we can express, the faster we get something in return, at least an answer. No, we can't do that. Oh yes, no, we're happy to help, right? The better we can express that, the more passionate we are about that, and the more value we can offer in every conversation, just by being truthful and very attentive when we're listening. By reacting naturally, we're showing that we are bonding, that we are creating a connection, that we build relationship, that we've established a relationship with our counterpart's brain, whether that's just for a short moment or for the period of a couple of hours during a stage play. It's super important to have that, because different people have different palettes, and we need to pander to all of them. And to certain, and giving certain circumstances, sometimes as actors we deliver to a drama audience, sometimes we deliver to a horror audience, sometimes we deliver to a comedy audience. And to all these audiences, there's always the occasion of minimizing or maximizing our ingredients, assessing clearly what it's about, and delivering the greatest value and the biggest impact. So how well you deliver depends on how well you've informed yourself, and how you've trained yourself, and how yourself put yourself also into, sometimes difficult performing circumstances at home. Like, try out your speech with a beat, with a hip hop beat. And if you are a big hip hop fan, then try it out with a metal beat. And if you're a classical fan, then try it out with a jazz beat, and so on and so forth. And go out on the streets and yell it out loud, and then just go in the basement and whisper it to the rats and to the lizards, and then just go up into the kitchen and try to do it while you're performing your automatisms, right? Performance has a lot to do with environment, and observe yourself how your performance changes according to the environment you're in, because then you maybe can control your expression better. Sometimes when we're scared, we deliver in a certain way. So if you put yourself into that environment beforehand, you know exactly how to deal with that kind of insecurity, and then you will overcome that difficulty in the audition room way, way quicker, and way more effective, and way more believable. That's also a super important point, because whenever it comes to delivering value, we have to make that value proposition clear for the audience. And they can only appreciate our value if we did everything flawlessly. Even if we have like great value to offer, if we can't really convey the message, if we don't have any impact, if we haven't clarity or brevity, then people won't understand our value proposition at all. So first we need to kind of, check these boxes before we then put a number of that on that sheet of paper, right? Before we then ask for the standing ovation, for the applause, because it's a give and take. It's an alignment with yourself. Because I always say that um, there is this inner alignment: do, love, act, right? Our speech, our passion, and our movement. And there's also the alignment with our audience, right? They want to listen to certain things and want to get touched by what we're saying and get inspired and escape their reality and their problems for a short while. And that's legitimate. It's beautiful. That's what our job is. It's actually, we are the doctors for the masses, right? Uh, a very strange and beautiful gifted mind from Russia once said that, and I believe that's true. And when we are doing that, we are aligning our thoughts, our emotions, our passion on the fastest route. And the fastest route is most of the times it's a straight line. I mean, there is physically a few things that we can discuss with different weights, but for the sake of it, schematically, let's go to something very black and whitish so we can understand. We need a straight alignment with our audience. We need to establish a connection like a bridge from my center line, from my center alignment to their center alignment. We need to touch their hearts, their bodies, and their minds, right? So we can ease their souls in a way. So we can give them something to tinker about, to kind of recognize some patterns, and we need to make that in the most clear and effective way possible. So if we align ourselves with the center line of our audience, automatically there is now a conversation, a give and take going on, right? I deliver a package, I receive a package. I deliver a package, I receive a package. It's very fundamental. It's very easy also and simple. But sometimes the most beautiful things are very simple. Like give me a kiss, right? How beautiful is that? Keep it straight and simple. Simple means not simplistic. Simple means clear. Simple means few ingredients placed in the right manner, in the right place with the right amount of relevance. Because if we offer something, we need to measure the relevance of the different elements that are trying to convey that center message, that core message. If we gave too much relevance to something that is completely irrelevant for the sake of the nature of our presentation, then we're deviating from what our initial intention was, and we're also confusing our audience. That's why I'm saying, if you think about this very simple alignment like a bridge, you can't really go wrong with that, because you know exactly you fall off the bridge if you're doing too much of this or too much of that. That simple alignment like shows exactly what you need to do. And the bridge is a very stable thing, but of course the width is just restricted, and also the amount of weight that you can carry on a bridge to a certain extent is restricted. So again, you have to measure exactly what kind of compounds you want to carry with yourself and what kind of relevance you want to give to those single compounds in order to kind of transport something that is very impactful and that will arrive at its destination in the order time during that time span when we ordered that. If we do this and it takes like hours and hours and hours, yeah, we arrive finally, but it took way too long, right? They're already searching for some other deliverers. We are emotional deliverers. That's our mission here. And how can we do that? On the fastest route, on the fastest path. Just go down straight to the core, center alignment to center alignment, and leave out what's unnecessary and take with you what's absolutely fundamental. And that's how you can always kind of get the measurements right. Of course, this won't work tomorrow or immediately. It will take its time. That's why actors and pitchers and all these people, they get paid a lot to do and perform their jobs. Why? Because they need to study a lot. They need to go through a lot. They need to, accumulate a certain amount of critical mass. They need to get some knowledge and reflect on that knowledge and make that knowledge an experience and put that experience into work. And then recognizing that that works makes it wisdom. So it takes some time. But eventually, the process is what's most enjoyable about not reaching the goal per se, because once you're at the summit point, it's pretty lonely. But getting there is pretty adventurous and beautiful. And that is our mission here at the CoachMC studio. And that is so beautiful because it's a mission of learning from those who you're teaching. And when you're doing that, the communication always goes on and on and on. And that counts for me as a coach and you as the creative community. That counts as for me as an actor and the audience, you as the actress or the actor that is delivering to the audience, as well as for the audience that is coming to share something, their time, their effort, and their energy with you, because they want to pay limitless attention to what you're doing. But you have to be clear. You have to be a great communicator in order to catch their attention, in order to kind of have their hands attached to the seats and to the arm banks, and really just wait for the next piece of information. Once you achieve that, I think you did a great job. And the more you practice, the better you become. But practice won't make you a master. The master is the will of delivering value. Value is the most important factor here. Your mission is to be great. And you can only be great by offering more value than your competitors, by bringing them into a different ocean, by offering something that is unheard of. To get through to the noise, you have to make sure that you offer something on top, on what everybody else is offering. You need to stand out. Even if that's just an eighth of an inch, you need to stand out. And that is your value. That is you as a communicator, you as an actor, you as a pitcher, you as a seller. And you are unique. So believe in your product and don't give a damn. Don't give a fuck about what everybody else is thinking, right? Because everybody's judging, and then they always change their opinion a couple of minutes later. That depends on is so many levels on so many different factors and vectors that you can even influence. So you shouldn't care about that. That's just a waste of energy, waste of time. The only thing you should invest your energy in is delivering in a magnificent way by believing what you're saying and really delivering that value through clarity and brevity and having the right context and the right impact by believing what you're saying and getting louder, further, and better all the times, right here. So if you have any further questions, let me know in the chat room, because I guess that's it for today's video, for our today's live session at the CoachMC studio. It was a pure pleasure for me delivering these instruments, these insights. It's something that I've built on for the last years. That's actually substantial part of my coaching method, of my instruments that I also share with my clients, with my students, with my fellow colleagues. It's part of what this whole endeavor is about, because I truly believe in art and communication. The better you communicate, the better the world will be, because the more effective and less intrinsic our communication is, the more effortless it becomes, the less energy we have to invest, the more energy we have stored for ourselves, the less nervous we become, the more we can deal with our adversities, the better we are as a collective, the greater and better the gathering is. And subsequently, the more the culture can spread and grow and add always something to it. Because the clearer I deliver and convey my message, the better you can do it, and the better the other one will do it, and she will do it better. And now the culture grows and grows. And we won't perceive people anymore jealous of their knowledge. We will just perceive happy sharing creators that are making the culture better and greater, and everybody can now subtract something, use it for itself, for his own endeavors, and put something back into the basket by adding something on top of it that was unheard of till this point. And now the culture becomes better, right? So it enriches the product. It doesn't diminish the product or the quality of the product. Quite the opposite, right? That's just a senseless way of looking at things. That's just the way of scarcity and jealousy and envy and being afraid. No, we're dealing with generosity, with abundance, and with courage. Like courage that comes out of our pores, out of our inner self. It's the Green Knight storming forward, and we're all backing him up, right? Because that's the best cause that we can fight for, like communicating what we got on our mind with everybody out there in the most effective, genuine, and powerful way. That's what our mission here is on the planet. The better we can do that, the better our lives will be, the better this planet's gonna be. So, wow, thanks a lot for this live. I'm impressed. Thank you, Rosita Macarons, for joining the show. Thank you, Annie Boo. Thank you, Yasmin Bodetsky. Thank you, Damir Demirok. Thank you, everybody who participated, all the questions, all the people here at the CoachMC studio, the creative community out there. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and write me something nice about this show, right? Just send me an email. Hey, the CoachMC, how are you doing? Right? Maybe I can help you out with your performance, with your audition, with your self-tape, with your casting endeavors, with your speech, with your pitch sale, whatever you got in mind. Just contact me. Write me a nice email, right? A nice love letter to communication. Through my website, it's the CoachMC Studio, and follow me on Instagram. It's the CoachMC. Also on Facebook, of course, I'm present. Add me to your social media accounts. Share this with your community, right? Shoot this out there. Let this information be heard by many, many, many more. Leave a like, leave a comment, and let's see us the next time, right? Because I think for now, you're ready to perform. Dun, 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 bum, bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Ba-dum, bum, bee, dun, 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 dun.